Burbies, good morning. All right, I'm here in the front, I'm here in the back, right? Let's go again. Burbies, good morning. Good, thank you very much. I want to acknowledge also with us from the Ministry of Housing and Water and the Central Housing and Planning Authority. We have Ms. Denise Studa, Director of Operations, and her team, her staff. I see in blue today, so you have different shades of blue. And so those are the CHPA staff, as well as throughout the day we'll have some regional officials who are going to joining us. I'm clashing with another activity, major activity in the region. And members of the media. Our presence here today is a continuation of a commitment that we have given in terms of the housing sector. Every so often, whenever we have an activity or we're in another part of the country and there's an activity and it's posted, there are a number of comments that follow. And so you will see what happened to Region 6, when are you coming to X village, when are you coming to Y village, when are you coming to Z region. And you will realize, if you follow our media page, you will realize that our program is to deliver to the entire country. And so we have to understand how we are operating. When we campaigned and we came to all the villages, we said to you, and we listened to you, and one of your requests is that you would want to see a ramp up or an aggressive housing program. Our president, obviously who was the presidential candidate then, and the former Minister of Housing and Water, responded, and in part of our manifesto, we committed to the people of Guyana a minimum or a total allocations at $10,000 annually. So that equates to $50,000. 5 years, 10 by 5. And the doomsayers, the criticizers, the opposition, well, they were in government then, all said it's dreams. Even after year 2 in office, you had the former minister from the last government saying to the nation, we're fooling people. And so by now, if you follow what we put out, you will see that we have been consistent in our information, because it's important that you know what's happening. It's a transparent process, and we also have an accountability to our electorates. And similarly, here in Region 6 is no exception. But housing and its housing drive also has an equally important aspect, that we cannot do this if we are not able to acquire land. We like to say sometimes, for example, we say land of many water, and then when you go through certain periods, then you realize how precious commodity water is. And similarly, we like to say Guyana has a lot of land. But the fact is, everyone or majority wants to consolidate and live within the very close proximity. And everybody asking they want to live very close to their family, to their in-laws, etc. And the flip side of that is that when you come to us and you're expressing your issues or your concerns, and you're trying to get for us to bump up or for us to urgently address your request, you know what you say? I get in problem with my in-laws. I can't live in the same house anymore. I get in problem with some family member, brother, sister, whatever. I can't live in the same house anymore. I can't take it no more. That's what you say. But when you start getting the land, you want to live very close. The reality is, therefore, government has competing interests for land use. And here in Region 6, we also have to take into consideration, here being an agricultural region, also the competing interests for your cash crop, for livestock, as well as whereby we have consolidated and expanding for sugar. Coming from the last period of 2015 to 2020, where you had a downsizing, and then the lands were left abandoned. But your government, as part of its commitment and fulfilling our mandate, is expanding the sugars industry. So we have competing interests for land use, because we can take the land and put all portions and allocate all the lands. What happens after that? We have to earn, we have to live, we have to eat. So every sector, it requires land use too. And that is why you will find us, therefore, we have a spread. Traditionally, persons want closer to New Amsterdam. And likewise, they want closer to Skelton, and they will ask for 75 and 76, etc. Today, as a result of being able to acquire additional land through Guyana Lands and Survey Commission, we have one existing area for which we're expanding and one new area. So let's start on the further end. Molson Creek. For me, if you ask me if I don't know where Molson Creek is, we'll say, oh, that place is far out, it's out of the way. Because growing up, we knew we're going to road end and we turn back. And so for us in Crabble Creek, to go to Molson Creek, it used to look like you're going to some other island. But Molson Creek itself will further expand, not only because of housing, but because also of what government intention and program is, and that is for the alignment of the bridge that will connect us to Suriname, the fixed bridge that is. So therefore, we'll have a hub. And so when we are doing development, it's not done in isolation. There's a lot of planning that goes into place. Because, as I said, from government level, we have to look at the overall objective of what we're trying to achieve. So we were here last year, we did it in Skelton, to start the first set of allocations at Molson Creek as part of phase 1 and 2. And today we have available for another set of allocations. And then we said to Guyana Lands and Survey Commission too that in addition to looking for land that is further or close to New Amsterdam, so that's why you can see a hub around Kanji area. There has also been a request when you do outreaches, for example, to Blackbush and so forth, because of the main farming and activity, there has been a request for residential, and you're on to a next generation. So persons now, the generation that is coming now, they want their own home. They want to live separate. And they may not be going back necessarily working into the agriculture sector. And so that is why we came up with the other area based on the availability of land at Hochstein. So Hochstein will cater for persons from Blackbush as well as close by, even from the central location, where we'll start up a new housing development. The infrastructure work for both the Molson Creek phase 1 and 2 and Hochstein the infrastructure work has already been tendered, it has already been awarded, and as I speak, the contracts are being signed. So it means the development work is immediate. And like what we have committed in this 2025 as part of the mandate that has been given by our President, he has asked us to do two things. One, we had to present a program how the Ministry of Housing, Central Housing and Planning Authority, will be able to clear our backlog of pending applicants. That's one. And two, also for the infrastructure work to also be done this year as those for those lands that are being allocated. So it therefore means our commitment, and by the next Dream Realize or housing activity we'll start issuing letters that therefore commits that all allocations that are being done, the access, it will be available by the last quarter of this year. So all persons being allocated in 2025 and before too will see and have access to build their home no later than the end of this year. And that will therefore means that we will be on par with allocations and development. Because you know what happened historically. Allocation done the 1 year, the infrastructure work the following year, because the budgetary request is dependent on the program that we present, which would have been the allocations on the previous year. So you are coming in good times. And when sometimes people ask, and I always say this, people say, sometimes they use the term, we are in oil-rich country, we are Dubai. Many times when people use those terms, and that's good to aspire, they don't necessarily use it in a positive way. They're using it in a negative or a sarcastic way. And so when you ask where the additional resources going for us who are earning more now, it is to do exactly what we're doing. Because to develop your land, the infrastructure work for here in Berbice will be not less than $5 million for each lot that we are allocating today. So the minimal cost that you're paying on your land is heavily subsidized. We don't speak about this enough. We take for granted. We only look at the photos. That's what will follow when I'm finished. You'll see an envelope and somebody pushing their hand in the envelope. You go away, make noise and say, housing taking too long, you can't access your land. But we don't understand, we don't take time to reflect on what goes in, the process that goes in before. So we are committing billions of dollars to ensure that we can do these as quickly as possible. And I said to you that we committed 50,000 house lots in this PPP 5-year, 10-year, first 5-year under President Ali. As I speak to you, we are over 42,300 allocations. So if I say to you today that our 2025 program involves clearing the backlog or the pending applicants in Region 6, this will be up to December 31st, 2024 applicants. It therefore means we have about another, on the system, another 4,500 applicants to address. What that means, if it's Region 6 and you only add all of those, that'll take you to about 47,000. You'll realize the allocations to be done this year will way surpass our manifesto commitment. And if you examine every sector, what we have done in every sector is achieve our manifesto commitment and passing that achievement beyond what we committed. And next, speaking about commitment beyond what we have said we will do, is for construction of houses. Our manifesto says house lots. But our president has charged us to be able to also build houses, to make it for beneficiaries an avenue for accessibility. And there for some persons who have their own dynamics in terms of limited in terms of constructing their own house. We have therefore built 100 houses in Williamsburg, Hampshire. You have 100 at Ordnance Fortlands, and those are the 2-bedroom houses. And then as I speak, we have another 100 that is being constructed at Palmyra, and those are the 3-bedroom houses. The price for all of these houses is exactly to the construction cost. We would have gone through tender process, and these were all local contractors from Region 6. And that, when you see the cost that we're charging for the houses, is exactly as per construction. So it's not profit making, or it's not a real estate business. It therefore gives an opportunity for many of the persons from Berbice to also own the home quickly and make use, and I want to acknowledge, make use of the presence of the banks who have been very supportive. So I see here, for example, you have New Building Society, GBTI, and then you also have the insurance companies. Well, for banks, Republic Bank, NBS, and GBTI, and for insurance companies, Nalico, is it Assuria, and I think, I'm trying to see, I think those are the two I'm seeing, and I think Demerara Life. Where it's important for us to also insure your homes. We take for granted the responsibility to do that. But in any casualty, then you are able to benefit. So when you leave here today, the exercise will move very quickly, the allocation that is. Before you leave, make use of their presence, because as I said, start getting up your information as to what is required for you to, if you're going to be acquiring a loan. You know your earnings, so how much you can be able to pre-qualify for, or with your ability and your monthly earnings. Give them those information, and they will help you to calculate how much you can do and how quickly. The young people that are here and the young applicants that are in the system, they are coming in a very fortunate time. Many of the older ones that are here today, you will stand up and you will shout to say you're waiting many years. You're waiting decades. They now have the opportunity of getting their land in recent years' application. And that's what development is about. It's about ensuring that as part of the transformation, everyone benefits, and that is felt as quickly as possible, and that is felt by all. So I want to encourage you, because I've seen a lot of feedback from my inbox that says, yes, I've been called today. While we opened the applicants, we also called persons. You know what we found? I don't want to give the exact statistics, but you'll be surprised if you call close to 1,000 persons going through our LMS system. We didn't get on to a lot of persons. We made an adjustment, because we also start calling in the afternoon. Some people are working, they're in the field, etc. To my surprising report that I received, you have persons who were not so kind or nice to the staff for calling in the afternoon. You believe that? Housing, this staff here, you see, you'll see them on show just now. And they work beyond the call of duty. They don't work with lunch hour. So sometimes what you see publicized via the media, and I'm not criticizing media because that's their work, is one or two negativities, and that's amplified. We don't often talk about the success stories and the work, the hard work and commitment that is done by that is performed by the staff. And so we've made that accommodation. We have an ongoing exercise as part of our commitment to bring on par for ownership of many of the areas we have allocated. We have a tight schedule. For example, I can't get them to do any other activity between now and April because they have it was since February. That includes Saturdays. They adjust it to even include Saturdays for their program, for their work, to accommodate persons who are working. And yet when we come to wait a few minutes, you hear a lot of noise. This is your future. This is your security of tenure. This is to ensure that your children and their next generation who will follow you, they have their own land. And they obviously move on to get your own property. That speaks towards your own. Then when you get that title or your ownership document, no one can trouble you. So just make a little sacrifice for a few hours to ensure that we complete the process. Today also, we have available about 241 certificate of titles for where we have processed in some of the areas, and I'll just call the block areas because where the majority come from. Williamsburg, Hampshire, Tain, Block 5, Anchorville, as well as Ordnance. In that, you would have heard me mention an area where we regularize, and that's something we have been aggressively addressing because Region 6 has a lot of outstanding areas of where persons are living, but they don't have ownership for their land. And many of those reasons, one of those reasons include because it started off by squatting. But nevertheless, we are committed as a government. We have said no new squatting will be recognized, and we've given the enforcement arm of the CHPA to the authority to move on any new squatter to even break. They don't have to consult, but we've said what we have existing, we will engage, not necessarily to recognize, because where you squat is not necessarily where you can live, but we will engage such persons. But with the aggressive land program that we have, there's absolutely no reason, there's absolutely no excuse anyone has to squat, simply because of the investments we are making to ensure that you are able to live in the land, on the land that we are allocating. Here in Region 6, for example, and I'm not including the two new areas where we are just awarding, $15.3 billion we have spent for infrastructure development. This is during our current tenure. We have spent for infrastructure development here in 75, 76, Ordnance, the very Williamsburg, Hampshire that I spoke about, and as well as Palmyra. Berbice, in terms of employment opportunities, not only because of the revival of the agriculture for sugarcane, etc., but also in terms of the long-term plan from the impact of the oil and gas sector, where at 𝐾𝐽 will become an economic hub. And to the young people who are the children and the young people who are attending here at university, they will have an opportunity, therefore, to put to use in the fields that they may be studying, where we are encouraging. And I'm speaking here when you hear the teachers talk about STEM. So science and technology, those are the sort of areas we're pushing persons to get involved. Liking maths. It's not always about, as I always use myself when I was attending secondary school and then on to university. All I thought about is that I wanted to finish school, and when I'm choosing a program in UG, I thought that I should do what I thought was the easiest program was business management, and I went on to do business management. It's not about that. It's about, and that is why you have a responsibility, parents, to also spend time and inculcate on your children to encourage them to take up fields that will become marketable and heavily paid, or handsomely rewarded, as we would say. And that we don't have to have persons that are from other countries employed in those fields where our people can maximize their employment. That is the future, that is the direction we have to go. You have to play their part by spending time with them, by encouraging them to make use. University of Guyana, as of January 2nd, as part of our manifesto commitment, removal of all tuition, so you're attending the University of Guyana free of cost. You didn't have that opportunity. We didn't have that, I should say. We had what we knew is about trying to find, we couldn't afford to pay, and we're trying to find guarantor. You're trying to get somebody who can sign as guarantor so that a student loan can be approved. They will not know about the struggles what you went through. And similarly, water, because I know you're waiting a while, it's no different for the water sector. Because two complaints that we have here in Region 6. One is sometimes the disruption on the water flow to the households. And there are two reasons. One has reduced, and that was tied in with power outage. So when there's blackout, then the pumps go down too. When the current comes on, the water don't reach back to your household immediately, and that's a disadvantage because it has to build up. And so it takes a few hours sometimes to get back into the system. And the second reason also has to do with, we have some of the wells that has been decreasing in productivity as well as even failing completely. And we have a massive coastland program because coastland wells is an area that we were struggling initially, but we have more contractors who have come into the system. The coastland wells therefore will see more a reliable level of service to the households and at a desirable level. So for example, persons within Port Morant area will complain. Right now we have a rig that is being removed from on the Nîmes Region 2. It's drilling a well at Monrepo, and then it will come to drill another well in Region 6 at Port Morant to supplement the system. But with all of that is your complaint about the water, how it tastes, how it look, and that nice white jersey that my brother got on there, he can't wash with it. You know that. What are we doing? We have a massive coastland program to ensure that all of the households receive treated water through the taps. And that program is not a pipe dream. That program has already started implementation, and we are commissioning almost every month, and it will be so for the next few months, a number of treatment plants where we are complete in the infrastructure, all under this PBPC current tenure. When we started 4.5 years ago, access to treated water, households, you want to make a guess? The amount of water, that coverage that is coming through the tap that is treated on the coastland, it was 52%. As I speak, we are about 85% or 80 to 85%, and before the year is finished, we will be 90 or 90+% of treated water coverage from Charity to Molson Creek. That is the investment we're making, and this is not being passed on to the consumers. This is not being passed on to you. So when you ask again, because if you know me hitting on some teams, you know why I'm hitting on some of these teams? These are the sort of comments you hear when some of these politicians who hasn't been coming around, but suddenly they're finding you. You know, election is in the air. And these are some of the comments they're trying to put into the villages. This is where your resources is also going towards. We have reduced the water tariff by 5%. We have introduced the subsidy for pensioners, and we have not, in all those investments we're making. So for example, one of those treatment plants on average costs $1.5 to $1.3 billion. We have not passed that on to the customer. We are consuming that from a governmental level. That's where your additional resources from the oil and gas is also going. So please be patient. I know you'll say to me, oh, you're getting at where you live or you have disruption. The intention is for all communities, all persons to have 24 hours water, and as I just said, treated water throughout the system. So I say to you, thank you very much for coming out today. We will be throughout the entire day to address your issues, your concerns, your matters, and all the relevant departments are here. So even if you persons who are listening, they have the opportunity to also come to follow up on any queries they may have. Because as I said, one of the complaint or the outstanding issue is about title, processing of title, and secondly, the issue on squatting, because some of those areas we can't process ownership. We have to regularize, and there's a process it has to go through to transfer the ownership of the land. But we are committed to ensuring all of that happens. So just like how every village that you go now, you see construction for new roads in every community, and they come to you and they say to you, you can't eat road. Well, now you also understand what we're trying to do. Last Saturday, for example, we were reviewing the last, or hopefully the last batch of roads in this region where you have persons living at least 10 households or even less on a street and it's not finished or it has not been done. We were reviewing every community, and you will see now they have already identified, and you will see in a few months ahead, all of those will be done, just like what you see existing everywhere. So with our housing road program for the housing schemes, with the national program through Ministry of Public Works and the region for the community roads, we will all be driving very comfortably, and the younger people will be able to lower their vehicles like what they'll be doing, because they can't cross some them speed bump with those cars that they got. I see a youngster smiling here, probably know what I'm talking about. But when they ask you, when they say to you, you don't eat roads, that is the example you need to give them, because infrastructure work is not about just the beneficiary. It creates employment. The workers are all some family member of you that is feeding some family, their family. And similarly, is the opportunity for supply chain, from whether it's for aggregates, materials in general, somebody is benefiting. And all around, all benefits when we have infrastructure. I thank you very much, therefore, for being patient. The floor is now yours to work along with the staff who will now outline for you what's the process you will follow. And I said to you, please be patient. And when you leave here today, go back to your communities and come back to your family members and say to those who have pending applications, and they have quite nicely didn't take up the offer today, say to them, land won't be available forever for within proximities, because as they become scarce, we have to go out. And similarly, the infrastructure works are being done. We can't always live right where we want. When we travel overseas, I know I don't like to say this because I got friends who tell me don't say it, but I'll say it. When we travel overseas, right? We have family members who wake up, they're just coming out of winter, wake up whatever time, it doesn't matter how much snowfall, and we're traveling 2 hours minimum. Going train, bus, or whatever means to get to work. You have your availability for home ownership closer to where within your region you have an added advantage. Therefore, make use of it. Thank you very much.